Welcome to Bowl First. Big thank you to My 11 Circle, who sponsored the first, I don't know, was it 7 or 8 episodes? They have left, so don't worry, I'm not going to say their name correctly or incorrectly for the rest of this episode. Let's talk about this pitch, because this pitch is, maybe actually we should change the name of the show to Bat First, just for this particular, we're not going to do that. I mean, we'd have to change the graphics and think about things, and we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to continue to plow forward. I'm actually now a little bit bored of this wicket. In fact, I'm bored of this wicket, maybe Mumbai as well. Not because they're not interesting in their own particular ways, just because at this stage, we kind of know roughly, with Chennai, we know exactly what we're going to get, don't we? We know exactly what is going to happen. Sort of like, it's like having a playlist where you just, you're pressing shuffle, but you're pressing shuffle between like 2 songs, and it just goes between them. One of the great things about T20 tournaments and World Cups and all those sorts of things is that this pitch does this, and this pitch does that, and, where are they playing? Or these 2 teams, how are they going to match up? It's just like, no, I mean, we know. We know what Chennai is going to be like, but let's have a closer look, shall we? Let's go deep into Chennai for a moment. I mean, this pitch is so obviously flawed and spectacular in its consistency that it should actually allow for cricket teams to play 5D chess, to go beyond the 4th dimension of chess, as we all know that there is 4 dimensions of chess, apparently. I don't know. Well, 6D chess, let's call it that. So if you have a look here at the blue line, that is how T20 games normally look. The IPL is a slightly higher scoring league than some of the other leagues, so you can see that the line is quite high, and that makes sense. Now, the green line is Chennai in this tournament. Now, you wouldn't expect it to be on a very similar curve, just because you're going to have high overs and low overs in only a handful of games. But what you don't expect is this big lag at the end. Do you see this big lag at the end here? I don't know. I'm hoping that the producer can put this up, but essentially, you don't get that kind of anywhere over more than a couple of game sample size. It's phenomenal how much that you just cannot score at the death in this game. And if you take it to the next graph, the next graphic, let's have a look, let's bring that up. You can see with the averages, people are not going out in the first 10 overs, and people are massively going out in the second 10 overs, which again doesn't really fit the template of how T20 cricket is massively played. This comes back to my 5D chess, very stretched analogy here. To play in this ground, you actually have to play very, very differently than you would in a normal ground. If you're Mumbai and you're just better than everyone else, and you're batting first and you have Jarrod Bumrah, I think what Mumbai did was okay. It was fine. I still would have liked them to play a little bit harder at the top of the order, but they brought Cryer and Pollard up. I think when it came to their batting, they were okay. Perhaps if Pollard hadn't been able to hit the last 2 balls out of the stadium, it may not have looked as good. They may not have even won the game. But I could see why they went with that strategy. If you're the Sunrisers and you haven't won a game yet, and you know exactly what this pitch is going to do, you've made 43 changes, you brought on all this young talent in, why would you not change? Why on earth would you not try a succession, a series, reverse the batting order, just pinch hitters everywhere? Just try something different. Other than Johnny Bairstow going hard at the top, which I thought was a really, really good strategy, they just kind of limped for the rest of the time. You can't limp. You have to make like 90 runs, maybe 100 runs in that first 10 overs at this ground. Especially if you're not very good and you're going up against Jarrod Bumrah at the end. You have to do something different. You have to flip the script. I hate saying things like that. It's a very American thing to say, but they're right in this particular case. I think something different had to be done, and I just don't think Sunrisers did that at all. Manish Pandey, we've already actually talked about him in an earlier episode, so I don't want to get too Pandey-esque again, but I do actually want to focus a little bit more, less so on his actual innings, because anyone can fail over a handful of balls in T20 cricket, but what I want to look at is the tactical decision here. So he comes out to bat to replace Johnny Bairstow. So Johnny Bairstow was sent in to smash the ball everywhere. They had other players in their lineup who could have done what Johnny Bairstow did. Maybe not as good as Johnny Bairstow. They may not have been as consistent as Johnny Bairstow. But they have guys, let's say Rashid Khan. They would have lost absolutely nothing by sending Rashid Khan in after Bairstow and just saying, pretend it's to death. See how you go. If you get a couple away, if he would have got, 1, 2, 3 sixes in 15 balls, they would have been laughing at that point. That would have allowed Warner to keep batting the way he did. The minute Manish Pandey came in, it completely changed the dynamic there in the way that they were going. Firstly, he chews up dot balls because he chews up dot balls. There's nothing, we all know that. He's been doing it for a career. That's what he does. In this particular situation, with Warner not exactly flying himself, it just sort of doubled down on that problem. The second one is that Manish Pandey then, I don't know whether he was just frustrated with the fact that he had faced a few dot balls, or whether he thought leg spin was his best chance. But he took on the leg spinner. Now, he's a good player against leg spin. Do you know who's a better player against leg spin? David Warner, who's at the other end. That's the time to get a single and get David Warner on. Here's their two run rates compared to leg spin. And the average is even more so. I think Warner averages over 50, Manish Pandey's around 30. So he's a fine player of leg spin. It's just that the guy at the other end is a much, much better player of leg spin. Let him take the leg spin on. That's what David Warner does, right? That's what you should be doing. It seemed to me like they didn't quite get that. It was the wrong batter to go in. He had the wrong mindset. He got trapped because that was going to happen. Any proper batter going in at that situation was probably going to put up a few dot balls. The difference is that Manish Pandey is not the sort of guy who catches up very well early on. He might have been able to catch up once he got to 20 balls, but he had to catch up here after 5, 10 balls. He just isn't that kind of player. I just think that Sunrisers set him up to fail, so he looks more like the villain. I'm not sure this is his fault here. David Warner is close to the best runner between the wickets in world cricket. And if he's not, Johnny Bairstow might be out there. And, there's a couple of guys that run really well. But Warner does it, it's almost part of his T20 armory. He actually likes to get started by running twos. He likes to steal singles. He likes to put the bowlers off a little bit. It's a huge, huge part of his game. So we talked yesterday about how Chris Gale doesn't take it. So I do understand why Warner would be looking for quick singles. But again and again in this tournament, we have just seen teams completely stuff up low chases by stealing runs that just won't make a big difference here. Realistically, Warner's biggest impact that he could have made in the first 10 overs was by hitting a lot of boundaries. Now, at one stage he fell over trying to scoop a ball, which made it look like he'd never tried to scoop a ball before ever in his life. That is not a normal David Warner shot. He wasn't in the right position. He didn't really understand what to do. He almost hit him in the face. So clearly he was struggling to get the ball away. But to then take on those quick singles, and it wasn't the only run out that cost them in this game. I will say it again, and I will say it again and again and again and again. Before about the 15th over, just don't see the point of that. If you're going to take a risk on boundaries. You get to the point where you need to get every single run. I kind of understand that sort of attitude. But at that point, they needed David Warner. That was the only way they were going to win the game, was with David Warner. And for him to be run out trying to steal a single, it's bad. Just something interesting from this game that I picked up. Mumbai did something very smart, but it actually started with something that Sunrisers did that I thought was quite smart. Vijay Shankar bowled. Now, Vijay Shankar, I don't know what his height is. I looked up Vijay Shankar online, and I saw that he was either 5'11" or 5'9", according to Google. I mean, he looks a lot taller than that to me. So I'm going to say he's above 6 foot. He certainly bats like someone who is above 6 foot tall. He doesn't bowl that much. As you can see that up until last year, he really didn't bowl that much. I think this is his first bowl in a game this year. But I thought he was brilliantly used. If you are a good cutter bowler and you are tall, this wicket today looked like an ideal decision. Now, I don't know if Sunrisers came into this game thinking they were going to bowl him, but they did. To back that up, Mumbai then went with their tall cutter bowler. I like it when teams do this, when they see something that's worked with the opposition and they go, I wonder if we can get away with this. Pollard got away. He basically stole a couple of overs. It was very, very good. He should have got a wicket. I think the ball went over the wicketkeeper's head. This particular pitch, the way it played today, was very suited to those kinds of bowlers, I think. I think both captains got that absolutely right. Vijay Shankar bowled 3 overs and Karabola bowled 2. And just a couple of quick bits to finish off in. Bairstow was opening again, and if you've been following this channel for a little while, you know that I love Bairstow as an opener. I think if he's going to play, that's where I'd prefer him to go. Saha went, which is an odd one, of course. As I've been saying, Saha is terrible at Chennai. If he was ever going to fail anywhere with the bat, opening or not opening, it was going to be in Chennai. So I think that one was a bit odd. Sunrisers also made like a kabillion changes, didn't they? They changed everyone. They rested Natarajan. I think they dropped some players. They moved some players around. It'd be interesting to see what they do with Saha going forward. They picked Majib again. Didn't quite work for him. To be fair, it was a slightly different kind of pitch, and maybe his kind of spin bowling didn't quite fit it, as well as maybe a more standard spin bowler would. They said they weren't panicking, but it did feel like they were panicking. And on the bench, it did kind of look like they were panicking. And just for Mumbai, you know, Adam Milne came in, replacing Marco Janssen. Very, very interesting one. This was the pitch that probably bounced a little bit more. If you were ever going to use Marco Janssen again, This pitch did seem to have a little bit more bounce in it. If you're ever going to use Marco Janssen, this might have been the one. So, not that it was an error. And Adam Milne went up against Bairstow, who in that kind of mood against him was always going to have a really, really good go. I don't think it was a mistake for them to bring Milne in at all. He's an experienced bowler. He still bowled very fast. Maybe just not the game for him. Very interesting, though, that he had, 3 overs to 33. I think he had 2 overs for about 29 at one stage in a very low-scoring game, and Mumbai got away with it, which is partly down to Karan Pollard's really good overs as well. That's all we have here. Plenty more content to come. There will be a live on Monday. We'll give you the times and all the details of that before it comes out. But as always, we'll be back here every day to be nerdy.